In this guide, I will lead you to have a head start on your character design career for the entertainment industry. First, let us discuss what is meant by character design and the entertainment industry. I'm talking about the visuals of a character, how they look and how they are presented to the audience in a given medium. This includes movies, TV shows, gaming, and more, where a fictional character is a subject of the viewer's attention or the face of the franchise. Artist or fan, this guide will help you to uncover the importance of character design, discovering the process from the first idea to the final details. We'll start with shape language. Shape language is a kind of visual code that designers use to introduce a character's personality or hidden messages, even if the audience hasn't met them yet. This is because, psychologically, we interpret different shapes with specific messages related to each one. This is why we may think that characters like Kirby are super cute and approachable, but then turn around and see Maleficent with fear in her eyes and shaking in her presence. Or see Wreck-It Ralph and feel like he will be strong enough to protect you from Maleficent. By understanding how shapes work, artists can make characters that feel real and interesting. Let us look at an example that can be applied. The Boba Kiki effect refers to experiments in which people are presented with two shapes like the ones you see in the figure below, and asked which one is Boba and which one is Kiki. You try. Now, you probably said that Boba is the first shape and Kiki is the second. This is because Boba and Kiki effect reveals how shapes are important in making characters and transmitting messages. People naturally think that sharp, pointy shapes are Kiki, while soft, round shapes are Boba. Designers use this idea to make characters that connect to the viewers emotionally. They pick shapes that match the character's traits and feelings so that they can do a tactical show don't tell. Now we'll go for symmetry and asymmetry. Symmetrical means that both sides of something are identical. Asymmetrical means that the two sides are different in some way. You can use these depending on the personality of the character. If they are serious, rational, logical, symmetrical would be the best, as it represents tidiness and structure. If they are energetic, chaotic, free-spirited, asymmetrical is better. However, symmetry and asymmetry are not the only definition of a character's personality, as it can be designed this way for other reasons, such as making the design interesting or just for simplicity. Now let us look at some famous character examples. Can you recognize them? Well, as you can see, we have Mickey Mouse, SpongeBob, Batman, Sailor Moon, and Pikachu. Even if you didn't know their names, you definitely recognize them because of their silhouette only. The silhouette is tested to see if the character's basic design is read by the audience. It let us recognize a distinctive design without the details to understand what the form is trying to say overall. Creating and completing character designs is all about starting with a strong silhouette. This initial shape sets the tone for everything that follows. In the entertainment industry, where characters need to be instantly recognizable, a strong silhouette is absolutely crucial. By exaggerating certain features and playing with proportions, we can make our characters really stand out. Now we'll move on to colors. Colors are often associated with specific emotions and moods. These are widely used in music videos, movies, art, and photography to further push the messages portrayed within that media. The associations with emotions are typically done as so: blue for sadness, purple for fear, pink and red for passion and love, green for calmness, and yellow for happiness. These are instances where the associations are the basis for designs. Many character designs limit themselves to a specific number of colors, as they can be used in design to keep their design consistent, to transmit a message through the character, or just to give them an overall theme. This does not mean that you have to follow these associations strictly, because each color is subjective. You give it the meaning you want it to have. Let's explore some fundamental principles from color theory and practical uses gained from experience in creating color palettes. First, let's talk value. How light or dark a color is. Value helps create contrast. When it comes to choosing colors, we can use a color wheel to guide us. Colors opposite from each other on the wheel, complementary, usually look good together, and colors next to each other, analogous, can also work well. It's all about finding the right balance. For example, the character Spinel from Steven Universe has an analogous pink palette. Interestingly, when she's seen in darker colors, it gives her a different vibe to the audience. There is a change in value in her colors. Her original form is light pink, and her second form is dark pink, which means that the two different views of her personality are seen by the audience. The light and saturated colors give the impression that she is happier and more active, but the darker colors give the opposite impression, clearly using light and darkness to define a character. To make the example even clearer, look at these two styles of clothing. You get very different vibes about it, right? The one on the left, the Decora style, looks brighter, more childish, and even happier. but the goth style on the right looks mature, haunted even. This is why value is important in design. It can help the viewer determine emotional or personal aspects of a character. For characters, it can be common to use a mix of complementary and analogous colours. Some designers actually make one colour stand out more than the others to keep things interesting but not too busy. We simply cannot make a character without looking at their clothing. In many animated TV shows, characters can often be seen wearing different outfits and styles. And you're wondering, why do they matter? Clothing is a very important aspect of the character as it gives an extra insight on who they are as a person. Is it practical for what or who they are? Is it for show? A special occasion? For example, characters like Mabel Pines from Gravity Falls, Luz Noceda from The Owl House, and Star Butterfly from Star vs. the Forces of Evil are outgoing characters, extroverted and with a childlike fascination and wonder for the world they're in. By seeing the way these characters often change clothes, the viewers are shown that these characters are positive and adaptable to the situations around them. They are fun and creative, showing it through their costume changes. However, their companions, Dipper Pines and Marco Diaz, show little to no variations in their designs, showing that they have a more settled and organized personality in their respective shows. The times that these characters change clothing is because the fun, female counterparts, dressing them up or influencing them in some way. I, for example, have a character that I've been working on for 4 years. Yeah, a lot. She is written to be the captain of a fantasy military force. This is her original outfit. Looks bad, right? You can say I admit it. If I hadn't just told you that she was a soldier, you would not have thought that she was. There is no colour that will indicate the uniformity, importance, or even the shapes. She is plain and boring right now. Let us fix it. I remade her character before the final story draft. She has been given this pointier, more defined outfit and a more coherent colour palette. She looks more fit for the role now, doesn't she? Now we'll discuss the medium. First, we start with animation. When creating content for entertainment, you want to match the design of your characters and establish the objects around them. This means that whatever you make has to be cohesive so that the character feels well done and is pleasing to the viewers or readers to consume. An example you may not have noticed before is the way that character designs in the start of the cartoon era had to adapt to what animation could do at the time. In old, very old animation, animators could not draw digitally since computers that could animate didn't exist, so they used cells, panels, and frames to make the illusion of animation. The characters' heads had to be animated separately for the animator's comfortability and efficiency, so character designers had to make neck accessories or neck covering clothing to hide the separation of the head. This is just one of the many examples of why it is a character designer's job to understand how the medium they work in works, because if not, there will be so many difficulties and obstacles for everyone. We now look at modeled art versus PNG stills. Modeled art only needs to be drawn once, as it can be virtual face tracking or manually rigged. It can have a lot of detail and many expressions in the drawing without having to redraw the whole body many times. However, anything that moves on this character must be split into pieces for rigging, which is a kind of animation. It is very tedious, trust me. PNG stills or still art are the digital drawings of characters that have to be drawn many times as they show independent expression or emotion. The design should have uncluttered accessories as it will be very tedious to keep drawing. Sometimes they are drawn to be more expressive than a person, so they're also very entertaining to look at, like the ones you're seeing here. When content creators use personas or puppets, they need to know how interesting they are to look at, since this model is the main thing viewers will fixate on when consuming their content. If a character that is used to present content looks boring or not engaging enough, viewers will lose interest, and that is the last thing you want when you aim to entertain. Let me guide you through real-life examples. We'll look at famous VTuber designs. We first have Gargora. She is most recognizable for her shark-inspired outfit and shark hoodie. Her main color is blue. Her secondary color is white or grey, and the accent color is red. Here she has her main color and her accent color, as well as very cleverly placed shark teeth references. All of this helps her stick design-wise to her shark theme. Then we have Ironmouse. The recognizable elements in her design are the horns and the tail. Her outfit changes often, so the recognizability relies on the colors, which are pink as a main color and purple as an accent color, as well as the permanent features of her design like her horns and tail, and the recurring shape of hearts on her clothes. As mentioned before, it's also important to keep in mind what parts of the design are going to be seen the most. For example, VTubers and content creators mostly just show the top half of their puppet. This is why many designs are top heavy. This is called the 40-60 rule. 40% is the one that you show and 60% is the one that isn't shown. But this does not mean you should neglect the other 60% of the design. All of the design matters. Now, PNG stills or character expressions are drawn characters showing emotion, imitating speaking in place of the commentator. This can be used similarly to the model puppet, but if you can't afford to have one made or just overall prefer to show more expression variety within your character. Here we have some examples of PNG stills and analysing why they work. First we have Fiona Polo. She is simple and recognizable, a black bonnet, a suit and green hair and skirt. The design is optimal for many fast redraws for many different emotions as many colours are used throughout the design. Then we have Duchess Celestia. She has a simple design too, but with some extra detail like the orange bows in her head and bow tie. She also uses more interesting shading which keeps more attention to the character. Finally, we have Ginja Ninja. She has more energetic poses as well as more detailed designs with an abundance of colours and patterns. This means that her character now keeps more attention than the previous two designs. If you've been paying attention, you will have realised that I also use PNG stills in this video. Interesting, right? Even though these expressions are still, hence the name, it does not mean you should allow yourself to make them boring. Comics. A comic is a story you tell through visuals, similarly to video games or animation. Your characters have to fit in with what world you're writing them into. This means taking into account what important or relevant things your story has that relates to your characters or what your characters would need to wear or have. There isn't too much to say about comic design, honestly, as a lot of the fundamentals merge with animation, since both mediums consist of redrawing characters constantly. Differently from PNG stills, comic characters should be able to be simpler because of how many more times they need to be redrawn. This of course does not mean that your character should have the equivalent of one plain shirt, jeans and sneakers, as this makes them very boring for readers to look at when they are on the page, especially if they are a main character or a recurring one. There is a trick. When drawing your character for a comic, draw them without their reference to compare. Whatever details you, the creator, forgot to draw, probably should be taken off, since they were not important enough for you to remember to add. This simplifies the design and makes reading them better for the audience, as the truly important details are the ones that are kept and intended to be noticed. For example, I'm planning to make another comic featuring this little witch as the main character. For now, she has 3 outfits that she will wear: her casual or default, her formal wear, and her lab outfit. I have made sure that all of these are simple yet interesting designs since they are important as well as recurring throughout the comic. I've also made a design simple enough to allow me to draw her quickly, which is always great when you plan to draw a comic on all of your own or have time constraints. Her colour palette is very simple yet stays a lot about her. It's very fun, bright and lively. The combination of pink, light blue and lilac gives her a recognizable palette for all of her outfits and matching objects. Speaking of which, they are designed to fit her overall palette, so you can tell that it's hers when you see it on the page without her actually needing to have them on her person. World building and following through makes the character come together and fit in with what kind of world they're in. Now we're going to head over to animation. For animation designs, they should also be as simple as possible. However, this depends on how the animation is created and the budget to make these animations. For example, in 2D, hand-drawn or puppet animation, they should be as simple and as symmetrical as conveniently possible. However, they should include an aspect of the design where the viewers can tell which way the characters are facing if they only see the silhouette, since 2D designs are normally very simple. Because they move frame by frame, they should have shapes and designs that make them move smoothly. Expressiveness matters as well. Different art styles are possible in 2D animation, from simple to more detailed. Keeping characters looking the same and making them look good are also key. All of these things together can affect how characters move and look in the 2D animation. There are even certain sitcoms that do not have plots and are episodic, so any symbolism, shape language, etc. is not typically used. However, designers do pay attention to a part of the design, a simple one, that can be drawn over and over to produce a lot of content fast and in a style that can be repeated for years as the series progresses. Even in children's shows, puppeteering is used since these kinds of shows need many episodes to keep the children entertained or teach many valuable lessons while they are still young. Animators will use 2D puppets to make the animation process faster and slightly easier. All of these puppets can be reused through hundreds of computers, so any animation studio can be tasked with continuing these shows, and they'll always look almost identical. In 3D animation, we are offered advantages like puppeteering 3D models, which are easy to recognize due to the detailed designs. Take for instance the characters in the game industry, Pixar, or Disney. They boast intricate details thanks to being 3D modeled, eliminating the need for constant redrawing. However, the distinctiveness of these characters varies, reflecting the diverse animation purposes. Even renowned shows like Arcane, Miraculous Ladybug, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2012, meticulous modeling, rigging, and animation are very important. Animators allocate time and resources based on budget constraints. They focus on animation physics such as flowing hair, blinking, and clothes bouncing to enhance the realism. As a result, some 3D shows or games may suffer from poor quality due to poor investment in animation physics or poorly designed models, resulting in very stiff animations. Now jumping into video games. Consider how your game looks and feels. You know those characters like Mario that are instantly recognizable? They have that iconic style that sticks with you. But in games like RPGs, you get to shape your character from scratch. Whether you're going to set a design or letting players customize, it's crucial that it all fits with the world you've created. The visuals play a big part in making the character feel real and pulling players into the story. Now we look at the two different types of video games. There may be more, but these are the most common. Turn-based versus open world. Character designs in turn-based versus open-world games are very different. In open-world games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Legend of Zelda, Warframe, and Genshin Impact, characters are made to fit into action-packed settings with lots of detail to keep players interested for hours on end. In games like Genshin Impact, while you see the characters from behind, the designs are influenced by the camera angle. For example, since this game is played from the third angle, characters have flowing hair, bouncing ears, and moving clothes that look natural and do not stay still. But they also need to work on the game's actions like jumping and fighting, so sometimes details are simplified to avoid problems and make the preset animation process easier. This means that any aspects of the design that may clash with the animations may need to be removed or adjusted. In turn-based games, however, characters mainly walk or stay in one spot on the battlefield. This simplifies the design process, allowing designers to focus on adding intricate details and unique appearances to each other character without worrying about difficult movements. Even when the characters do move, the animations are personalized and carefully crafted. As they have a high budget for the character development, this meticulous approach ensures that the animations align perfectly with the cutscenes or quick combat actions. Therefore, developers have more creative freedom without overburdening animators or riggers with overbearing animation demands. This next section is about concepts, culture, and inspiration. We'll start with the concepts. When designing a character, it is important to have variations of the design one wants to make to explore different elements that appeal or not to them and the audience. Testing what works in the design and what doesn't within it includes all the elements I mentioned before: the body, the colors, the medium. Coming back to the variable of the medium, it is always a good idea to make various concepts since the designs are attempted to be used. It is easy to see what elements work and those that don't. In this concept art for a Disney show, the designers explored what the characters may look like or what they want the general feel of the cast to be like. Concept art is the first idea you get of a character, and the ideas keep going until you reach a final design. Even in pilot episodes of shows, concept designs are still being used to test how well the elements work in the medium they are planned to be used in. Jumping into culture and inspiration. When creating a character that is supposed to reflect a culture, especially if it's not your own, you should always do a lot of research into the traditions and aspects of the culture you want to incorporate into the design. There should always be an effort to avoid the stereotypes of the people you are drawing inspiration from. There should be a focus on capturing the essence of the culture you want to represent. If you're creating a new design, it is never out of practice to try to incorporate different elements of the same culture into a character. It should also be noted that symbolism and meanings in the culture are very important, and in some occasions, drawing an element of a culture wrong without care can give the character a completely different meaning. For example, giving a Japanese character a kimono with the overlap on the wrong side means they will be dead. This is one of the examples of why one should be very careful when designing characters from other cultures. Here we have an example of a racist Chinese character, Cousin Chinky, full of racist stereotypes, but a respectfully designed Chinese character, Chun-Li. In Avatar: The Lost Airbender, all nations and their fighting styles are referenced and inspired by real cultures and their traditional fighting. This is what makes the show very likable. The representation and cultural appreciation of each style draw people in for the uniqueness and its inspirations. Even in this game called Dislight, the characters are very heavily inspired by global cultures and mythos, like Medusa from Greece, a Japanese shrine maiden, the Egyptian god Anubis, and the Chinese dragon Qilin. This is what makes cultural inspiration so incredible and likable in the entertainment industry. People from these cultures will see the accurate yet respectful and modernized designs which they will like. Now I'm going to jump in and see 2 examples that I've made. Please do remember that these are very specific. You don't need to follow these step by step. These are just to give you an idea on what to do when you are in the situation. Now we'll start with the examples. Imagine you are now a fully realized character designer. Good job, you're an adult. And you are hired by the Genshin Impact team to design a character for the new Natlan region. You were told that this new region is based on Hispanic culture, which means Latin America and Spain. Now we create the character so we can get our first paycheck. We have seen a bit of the character design in Genshin Impact before, but let's look at it again to make a list of things we can fit into the design. Genshin is a 3D open world game and action role-playing. This also means that the character should have clothes and designs that allow for the action. Now, let's do some research and look at inspiration that we can get from Hispanic culture to make a character. Let's say we have chosen to make a bullfighter matador. We look at what they look like after researching. Now we have carnations, a traje de luces or a light suit, and coral earrings as elements to work with. In this game, all playable characters possess an element they can control, and many times this color influences the main color scheme of the character. Now, using your previous knowledge of the color language, we know that red means passion, and in the game, the element of fire is given to those with passion for a goal and determination to achieve it. So that's why we are choosing red as her overall color. Then we use the analogous palette and choose yellow and orange for the minority colors. Finally, to spice up the design, we add the complementary accent color of green with this character design. After combining all of these, we have adapted to the world building limits, stuck to respectful cultural aspects, color language, and hierarchy. We have adapted it to the medium it plans to fit, and has a recognizable silhouette. Well done! Time to get paid, but metaphorically though. Now we jump straight into our second example. You are hired by the Nintendo Pokemon team to design a character, a new trainer for some episodes for the new Pokemon Horizon the series, and an additional Pokemon as their companion. They tell you that the Pokemon must be poison and grass type, and we can get a clue on what our Pokemon could look like from this specified typing given. Being 2D animation means that the character will need to be drawn a lot, so we'll need a simple yet interesting design as well as a simple shape to allow for the smooth animation process. My first approach for the Pokemon was mixing Poison Ivy and a Hedgehog. I looked at Poison on grass-type Pokemon to get an idea on what they could be like. First, I came up with this giant hedgehog design, but I did not like it at all. The silhouette was not giving the message I wanted, and the body language was lacking strength. So I tried again, planning the silhouette of the new Pokemon, keeping in mind the shape language I wanted to keep, which was mainly triangular since a Poison-type Pokemon seems dangerous enough. I ended with a design that reads so much better than the original one, and it takes the point across very well. We can call him Ivyquill. But now we have to create the Pokemon trainer. Now, in some instances, trainers may or may not take visual inspiration from their Pokemon or types. For example, this trainer who is very obviously said to be a flying type trainer based on all of her wing-like symbols on her. You can very clearly tell she has a relation to flying type Pokemon. This is why the trainer I am making to accompany Ivyquill is a punk character with spiky hair similar to her companion. I chose punk because it's typically a style of clothing that often incorporates sharp shapes and asymmetrical designs to show a sense of rebellion and defiance. I thought this fit well with the aesthetic I was presenting with Ivyquill. Now I have designed 3 ideas that I like for this character, but how on earth can I choose? Well, this is why concepts and ideas are perfect. We can see what works and what doesn't, what I like and what I don't. For example, I think that the hair and the boots for the first design are absolutely perfect, but the clothing for the third one is simple and fitting. So what do? Our final design becomes a merge of these two and perfect character. Now they are done, our trainer Juno and her Pokemon Ivyquill. Thank you so much for watching my guide. I really hope it was helpful for you to understand some more of how character design works. I know there may have been some niche details and information, but trust me, it will only get deeper the more you get into character design.